All right. Well, officially welcome to meeting number 31, which is pretty remarkable. I don't know if we have any new joiners on the call here today, or if Makeel, if you're on, there's any new joiners that you want to highlight.
Yeah, Jim. I don't have any new member as at last meeting, so yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Not only was the December payroll transaction sent, it has been paid. So if you had um, worked in the month of November or were on salary, you should see that bank in your wallet today. So this is a huge milestone for us. As silly as that might sound, we were doing seasonal payments, and we've moved to a monthly payroll. So Jay Fanny, thanks for all the work you did these past couple weeks getting this squared away. And I'm really excited that we're doing this, and you as a contributor will have a better idea of how and when you're getting compensated, and we're going to be real transparent about that and pay monthly.
Yeah, thank you.
If you get some time, check out this Loom video that I shared here. I built the skeleton of a Web3 PM competency matrix. It was built off of the workshop we ran a couple weeks ago on the Web3 PM, Web3 versus Web2 PM skills, and also our the skill tree that Swole Chase had built out too. From there, I'm going to pause. I've asked the other guild leads to update everything asynchronously, so check this out at the end of the meeting, or maybe by the end of the day, and there'll be some notes there. And as always, great, we'll do our weekly roll up. I want to hand it over now, and I'm going to stop my screen share to Samantha. I'm not going to lie, I'm a huge fan. I feel like long time reader, first time caller here. Samantha's someone who I have been reading. I've been reading her work, listening to the different podcasts she's been on. I'll do my best to intro you. I know that you have extensive Bankless DAO roots from the Writers Guild, and then now have started a meta label on Quorum and releasing podcasts, just writing incredible articles on DAO contributors. I've really digested a lot of your work on guilds, and guilds has professional associations. You just dropped yesterday an amazing article on governance. So I'm just so happy to welcome here to the PM Guild as we're trying to expand our thought leadership, really grow our professional presence, and excited to learn from you today. So I'm gonna hand the floor over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, I really appreciate that intro. That was super nice. Yeah, I've actually been to one of your guys' meetings before a while ago. So I kind of think I know how the flow goes, but yeah, I'll just do like a really quick intro on myself, and then I will talk about some onboarding and user journey stuff that I think could really help out what you all are doing at the PM Guild. So I started my Web3 DAO journey as a talent scout here at Bankless DAO. I was in the Writers Guild. It was about like 16 months ago that I started this. So over a year, but not too much over a year ago. And I was working on onboarding people and was really involved in that space, and was also doing a lot of writing and editing at the same time. Eventually decided to quit my Web2 job, do Web3 full-time. I was with Bankless full-time for a couple months, and then eventually transitioned over to Aragon full-time. And Aragon creates smart contract frameworks for on-chain DAOs. So essentially, if you wanted to have automatic execution of when a vote goes through, say a vote passes, then a vote to fund a guild, for example, then that money is automatically sent to the guild. So we have a whole smart contract framework that's kind of our product. Lido, Decentraland, API 3, all of those projects are built on Aragon. So it's kind of like an older project in this space, founded in 2016. And then what we're doing now is really pivoting a lot into a more modular, adaptable protocol. And that's kind of where the Aragon DAO stuff comes in, which is what I yesterday. So yeah, that's kind of intro to me. At the same time, I've been working on this meta label with Brandon, who is also from Bankless South. So he got started in the podcast hatcheries, still involved over there. And he runs the podcast side and I run the newsletter side. So yeah, that's basically an intro to me. I'm going to see if Discord allows me to share my screen really quick. Okay. Okay. All I see is blackness. I don't see the screen. Maybe it's thinking. Why does it?
Yeah, right now still blackness on mine too.
That's weird. I feel like I've had a lot of issues with screen sharing in Discord before.
Are you on a Mac, Samantha?
I am, yeah.
I know I had to enable, I just got a new Mac and I had to go into the privacy and security in settings and then enable it in screen, like under screen recording.
Okay, I have enabled it before. This is strange. Oh, maybe I need a lower resolution. Oh yeah, I need to grant permission. Dang. I already granted it. I guess my computer updated. Okay, hold on. Or I guess then I'd have to like cut out the app, right? So maybe someone needs to share for me.
Yeah, I can do that for you.
Okay, cool.
Which one do you want to share first?
Here, I'll just drop it. We'll start with this one.
Are you putting it in the PM voice chat?
Mm-hmm. Or general, yeah.
Got it. Give me 1 sec. That's the one.
Yes. Nice. Okay, so if you could scroll down to the first graphic. So something that I learned while I was a town scout at Bankless was that none of us were really thinking about the user journey. So user journey is how someone, a user, a person, goes from discovering something and figuring out what it is to eventually becoming like an advocate for that product or service. So for example, this is often used in product development, which I'm sure you all in PM Guild are super familiar with. So you become aware of a product, you become interested in, or you're not interested yet, you're just aware, you know it exists. And then you start evaluating it, so you're making a decision around what is this like? Is it something that can help me? Move on to consideration, which is when you really start weighing your options of, am I going to invest time, energy, money, whatever, into this thing? Decision is where you decide to use it. That's in hot pink because that's a super important moment in the user journey that a lot of product development really focuses on. And then after that, you have retention, which is, keep them using the product, keep them engaged. And then lastly, we have advocacy. So advocacy is when someone is kind of becoming your evangelist. So a lot of times you'll hear like the Notion Nation or something, like they are the people who like Notion so much that they're out there evangelizing and getting other people to sign up and basically on board. So I started applying this user journey process, this user journey of discovery to talent scouting. So basically what I learned was that there wasn't enough space or room for things like the consideration phase where you decide if the DAO is right for you, where you decide if the guild is right. There wasn't enough space for the awareness phase. So we weren't really marketing Players Guild. We weren't getting the idea of being part of a kind of a professional network of Web3 native writers. Like, we weren't getting that at all. No one knew about it. So if you could scroll to the next graphic. So I started thinking about friction, which, again, PM, you guys probably know this stuff. So friction is the friction in a user journey context. I'm not talking about like physical matter friction right now. So friction in a user journey context is the kind of issues or struggles or hurdles a user has to go through in order to get what they're trying to get. So bad friction is when mission-aligned potential contributors who maybe want to join the DAO and are excited about it, they cannot do it because the onboarding is too confusing. They couldn't even learn about the DAO, they couldn't learn about the guild, and then all of them are blocked out. But there's this thing called good friction, so you can go down to that. But everyone who wants to join the DAO and who wants to get through the friction point, they can go through that onboarding flow afterwards. So the way I started introducing good friction into the Writers Guild was at a writing test. I introduced a writing and an editing test for two separate things, and essentially they were in place to make sure that the people who were coming into the guild knew what they were getting into, basically. So a lot of times people would come in kind of like surfing around, lurking, figuring out what they want to do, which is great, and we wanted that. But then I was like, okay, like, what's the next step for these people? How do I sure that they know like the exact type of work they're going to be doing before we're actually assigning work and dealing out tasks? So I started implementing this writing test where essentially people would have to submit some previous writing work that they had, maybe they published it on medium, or maybe they had written it just in a Google Doc, they hadn't published anything yet, or for example. So I started introducing that friction point of good friction so that essentially the quote unquote right contributors were entering. I don't love using the word right contributors because it's whoever wants to join and whoever really gets through that friction inside of them, they should do that. So that's kind of what I mean by like the correct contributors come through. The ones who are mission aligned, who know what the work is, who are excited about the work. And I found that friction point was like really, really helpful because it saved me a lot of time with onboarding, because then I was just onboarding the people who were like, okay, I'm down for this. I'm down for this Web3 native writers circle, editors circle. But then the people who didn't want to be part of that, they opted out and they self-selected into basically another guild. So yeah, that was the whole idea of introducing friction into the journey of being onboarded into a DAO and finding a DAO and finding the correct, like your kind of correct path into it. That was something that really kind of revolutionized the way I was looking at the talent scout role. And it's definitely something that I'm not a talent scout at Aragon, but it's something that I've like continued to think about a lot in my like Web3 work. So yeah, that is the first piece. Anyone have any questions on this exact topic? I'm going to talk about onboarding and user journeys and stuff in the next article as well.
Hey, Samantha, that was wonderful. I'm curious, were you reaching outside of the DAO for talent, or this was all individuals who were already in BDAO and were interested in the Writer's Guild?
There's people in BDAP because at the time, well, I'm not 100% sure what like, first of that looks like right now, but at the time we're pouring in Bankless DAO. This was like peak bull market, like pouring. So I was looking at it for how do I select for the people who really want to be here, because there's so many people, like just waves and waves. And then eventually we started introducing a little bit more outreach. That's when the Writer's Guild Twitter account started, a couple more like stocked outreach kind of started.
So I only know bear market, so I have no idea what that pouring of individuals looks like. But that's where my curiosity was, especially with the PM Guild and looking to build a hub of education. We're kind of stuck in that chicken or the egg. Like, we need the talent to build the education, and we need the education to build the internal talent. And I feel from a when talent scout, I feel we're almost stuck from, or there's something we need to do from a branding standpoint, which you talked a bit about. And I'm wondering if, and maybe we could take this one after or even offline, like, what would you do if you were us in terms of trying to get more outreach and visibility to, if there are folks in the DAO, but we may actually have a need to go outside and find some people that really want to help build your work.
Yeah, absolutely. That is something I definitely want to cover in the next article. So I'm going to go over that. Yeah, I'll go over that next.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, the friction point thing is still applicable for them. And you can start pulling up the next one. I'll just DM it. It's in PM general. The friction point is still super applicable to this onboarding method as well, but there are lots of points of good friction in this, but I just wanted to introduce the concept of good friction before going to this one. I published the articles in a different order. I honestly should publish the other one first, because that introduces why it's important that people can self-select in or out while they're being onboarded. Yeah, any other questions on good friction, bad friction, things like that? Okay, so let me see what graphic you should start with. I wasn't as good with the can. Just go a little bit. Yeah, that one might be. Yeah, just start there. That's fine. My Canva design has gotten better. So this article is about how to help contributors learn about your guild, your DAO, your organization, whatever, and self-select in and out depending on what they find is right for them. And a lot of outreach can really get factored into this, and I'll talk about that as we go. So I'll give a high-level overview of the flow. First, the new contributors come in. That's in step one. Then the onboarding team kind of greets them and says, hey, we're going to walk you through this onboarding process. Step three is when you educate the new contributors on the purpose, principles, values, mission, assumptions, everything high level about the organization that they might not necessarily know just from reading the Bankless DAO Twitter bio or something, right? So this is more, we're going into why Bankless DAO exists. What are Bankless DAO's values and assumptions about the world? So then the onboarding team kind of teaches them that. And then maybe someone in that group is like, this isn't right for me. I don't hold these same assumptions about the world. I don't have these same values. And then they self-select out. But then everyone who wants to keep going, they self-select in and then continue on to step 4. So this is kind of the good friction moments coming in. Step number 4 is when you teach them about your organization's operating system. So how do we work? Do we use self-management? You know, are we entirely self-managed, autonomous contributors? Are we working in some type of hierarchy? Are we working in some type of holacracy or meritocracy or something? So that's when you educate them on how that works. And that was a step I found was really, really important when I was a talent scout, because people had no idea what they were getting into joining this DAO. And so I would sit down with them. I mean, when I say sit down, I mean DM them. I would be DMing them and say like, hey, this is totally self-managing. You have to motivate yourself, plan your own work, plan your own schedule, not plan so that you're not in too many meetings, but you're in the right ones. Plan so that, you know, you're not just DMing on Discord that you're actually getting work done and then bringing output for the organization. Like I would kind of be serious about that. And that I found was really, really important for people saying, hey, like this is exactly what I want, or this is not right for me. I don't want to be in a self-managing organization. And then people can self-select out or in. For those who select in, then they kind of get a office tour. Like you can come to work day. So this was the Talent Scout office hours I did. You know, people would show up and ask questions, and then I'd help them find a good first meeting to come to. So that kind of like getting into the office is a really important step. And then for some people, like when they see how your guild works, they might realize this is not an office I want to be part of, you know, and so then they can self-select out. And then by the end of the process, you have a contributor who is not only educated on the DAO's overall purpose and value system, but also on the operating system of your guild and the office working styles, things like that in your guild. So I'm going to get more granular now and talk about outreach a little bit. You can scroll down. That's kind of big. So in this sieve, and this is something that I think maybe you guys could do for outreach on your own, even if the DAO at large isn't doing this. So sharing what you believe as an organization, like being really, really loud and proud about that. So the PM Guild believes DAOs are the future of work. Why do we believe that? You know, write a mirror article on it and mint it and see who else mints it, or see who collects it and see who's interested, right? Like getting really loud and proud about your values and your mission and your purpose, I think is a huge onboarding asset in Web3, when onboarding is more about being mission aligned and being values aligned rather than getting recruited on LinkedIn or something. So I think a lot of outreach you all could do is around like sharing your purpose, principles, things like that. Twitter, Mirror, Reddit, honestly, LinkedIn could be a huge opportunity for you guys as like a professional guild, but we can get into that a bit. Now you can scroll down to the operating system one. Yeah, so then the next kind of sieve, I call them sieves because I should have explained this earlier, but it like filters, people can filter through or they can choose to not. So the sieve like filters out people who decide that it's not right for them, and then the people who do want to be part of the organization, you know, they filter through the cracks. So on the operating system, this is when you share like what is interesting and revolutionary about how you're working. So for me in the Writers Guild, I would share things like everything is async except for these 3 meetings, and everyone works on their own and decides what they want to do, and like manages their own time and doesn't have a manager telling them what to do. This was super revolutionary. That's what I would tell people when they came in. So something you all could do for outreach is, so compare yourselves to maybe a professional organization and say how you're different. Say what you guys do that is Web3 native. Say what you guys do that would kind of spark interest in existing project managers to come and join your ranks. And really just share how working in DAO as a PM is so exciting. Maybe share like the struggles you're going through. And then that can help people who maybe have a solution for those struggles. Like they'll get excited about wanting to join you guys and solving those issues. So yeah, you can go down to the third one. And then this is when the actual onboarding starts. So once they've gone through those two kind of sieves, they've learned about the purpose and the values, and then they've learned about the operating system, then they're coming to work. They are coming to meetings. They are coming to office hours. They are maybe doing whatever test or friction point that you've introduced that you want them to do, like I had with the writing test. And then after they do that, then they decide if it's right for them, you know, if they're going to be a paying role holder, a paid role holder, if they're going to start picking up bounties, things like that. Yeah, and then you can scroll to the very last slide. Yes, that's good. So the goal of this type of process is that when someone comes into your organization, they understand the purpose, they understand the social layers, what's going on with like kind of like who's in charge of what, they understand like what the office standards are and things, and then they understand your operating system and governance, how you use tools, how things work, things like that. So I think you all have a ton of opportunity for outreach just simply by sharing a lot of these things in your guild and like how, like writing them down, putting them on paper and just like blasting them out to the world, because I personally don't think there's enough writing on how DAOs actually work on the inside. There's a lot of commentary on DAOs from the outside, like people writing about other DAOs, people who aren't necessarily diving in, but there's not a lot of commentary on, hey, I'm in this organization, this is exactly how it works because I'm an insider, you know? And that's what I've been like trying to do a little bit with Aragon with my articles. So that would be my biggest recommendation for sure. But I'm definitely open now to start discussion on these two.
Samantha, thanks. I'll come down off the share. I've got tons of thoughts and notes, but I want to open it up to the guild. And what thoughts, questions do you have for Samantha?
Especially if there's a talent scout here. Not sure if there is one.
Hey, Samantha, also here. Thanks a lot for the great presentation. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're good.
I was just wondering, you know, you kind of had that the first graphic on the second article where you kind of show how you take people, new members, through 3 different sieves. Would you tell them like this is the journey that we will try to get you through, and it's okay to self-select out or in at any given point? Or is that just kind of a plan that you had and followed?
Ooh, yeah, that's interesting to think about. I think being as transparent as possible is always best practice. So saying up front, hey, you know, first we're going to go through purpose, principles, values. Then we're going to go through operating system and governance. And then lastly, we'll bring you to the office kind of thing. Being really upfront with that is good. And then as soon as you finish each section, just being very open and being like, hey, did this resonate with you? Does this feel like a good fit? I think just transparency is best and helps everyone decide, like, where they want to be. And maybe you'll have a discussion with the contributor where you're like, oh, actually, you'd be a really great fit for this other guild. Like maybe try their onboarding process, for example. It's all about helping people find where they're going to fit best. So yeah, I'd say being transparent and support.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Thanks.
I had a question. Oh, hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Happy to be in the call today, Samantha. Thank you for coming and talking to us about this stuff. This is awesome.
Thanks.
Now, I'm curious. Two questions is have you seen anybody who's doing this onboarding awesome? Or is this like felt the pain, this is the way it should be done, and we'll see if anybody does it? And so that'd be my first question. And then my second question would be, there's like two kind of like onboarding type things I've seen recently. One's like Dots. It allows you to kind of have scripted Discord. And the other one is like, I think it's called DAO Lens, which kicks you out into a browser, but the idea is just kind of question, answer back and forth or whatever. So those are my two questions, and maybe it's more complex and you can't just throw a tool in there and get it right, you know? So.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the first question, I was mostly inspired by how teal organizations run their onboarding. So I can send some links in the chat, but teal organizations, I don't know if you guys have talked about this in PM, but they're like the next evolution of human organizations, and they're essentially self-managing. They're very DAO-like, very like people are in circles rather than triangles, you know, not in a hierarchy, but they're in this kind of like self-managing guilds. And they're very, very purpose-driven, very focused on, you know, we want to achieve this goal. And usually the goal isn't necessarily about just making a profit. It has a larger scope. So like Bankless's goal of onboarding the next billion people to crypto, like that is a very mission. Bankless is a very mission-driven organization, so it's very similar to Teal. So for me, it was mostly doing research into that book, Reinventing Organizations. That's been really influential on my thinking on DAOs. So that would be my answer there. As far as tools, I think the onboarding tools to automate things really are just for clearing out the bots. So my thought is that if you don't have that human touch in your onboarding, you're missing so much. So I think you need to have like kind of one-on-one connection with the people that you're bringing into your organization, or else they're going to be really likely to drop, and you're going to be likely to have a bunch of new members coming in that are not mission aligned, not vision aligned at all. So I'd say as human as possible. Probably a very hot take with all the GPT-3 stuff coming out, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of all the automated stuff.
Hi, I also have a question. May I? In several times I tried to contact the Aragon DAO, especially because luckily you are also in there and I had this experience over there, so maybe it connects. So especially in the early times, it was much easier, I think, to contact the people over there, see what's going on, and like try to contribute. But recently I see that the working groups and guilds are only visible to people who have the tags. Am I right?
Yeah, so Aragon's going through a huge transition right now, which I've been writing about a bit on my newsletter, where previously there was this kind of experiment DAO, which was probably the one that you were originally joined. The Aragon Discord server had they had this whole optimistic, yeah, that's it. So they had like an optimistic governance thing and like this whole decentralized court system. It was crazy. Honestly, it was interesting, but so that got deprecated. So that's probably why you're confused. Yeah. So that doesn't exist anymore as of quite recently. And the new Aragon DAO is a delegated voting DAO that is going to be very different in how it operates. It's not an experiment, like it's the real deal. The whole treasury is eventually going to be in it. So yeah, the Discord server right now is very dated off because we haven't made the transition yet.
Yeah, so that depreciates my question because like it's not there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything's like totally in flux right now, but in early 2023, hopefully by then the transition will have sorted itself out and will be open to new contributors again, but because right now everything's like shifting. It's pretty gated off, so yeah.
Okay, so I was going to say where is the transparency in this and stuff, but like,
Yeah, it's not at all right now. It's not. The only transparency at the moment is our weekly newsletter. So I can drop that here also. You can find information there and you can find information on like when the transition will conclude and not be shadowy and weird.
I'll try my chance on the new DAO.
Sorry, say that again?
I'll try my chance on the new DAO.
On the new DAO, yes, definitely. Yeah,
Okay,
2023.
Thank you.
Hey Samantha, this is Eric. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, great. Yeah, really fascinated by your background and some of the articles that you've written. I have more of a meta question or a philosophical question. At Aragon, the philosophy historically, as I understand it, has been that decentralization is much. It's about like you said, lack of hierarchy and people opting in. And my understanding is that there's an increasing number of people who philosophically believe that the future of DAOs is actually using that technology, but not necessarily reinventing the wheel. And I know even on like the Bankless podcast, they've talked about perhaps the DAO, DAO is a misnomer, that maybe the future of Web3 and the future of work is digital organizations, and that it's essentially using Web3 technology to improve upon traditional governance, like corporate law, and more centralized team structures. So I was just wondering what your view of that is, and whether you're seeing any of that in your research.
Yeah, definitely. That's super interesting. So I think, yeah, the term DAO has been very confusing for all of us for a very long time. So I think we're finally getting to the point where we are okay with knowing that the word DAO isn't fully defined and that every organization has their own definition of it. And that you can play with Web3 tools and play with what's possible with crypto without needing to be full on, automatic execution of every vote, full treasury on chain. Like you don't need to go all in to still use the really exciting tools that are available to you with Web3. So yeah, I think the kind of the gray area and the space between is exciting, and that it's not like a binary, it's not black and white. So I think we'll see like the DAO definition exploding and getting even bigger rather than getting more narrow. And something we've talked a lot about at Aragon is like on-chain organizations, like that concept is different, and then DAOs, and then like actually going back to looking at all the different types of on-chain organizations. Like there's that really, which I linked in my article because I think it's so good, but just foundational, like what is a DAO article from Vitalik. Like he has like 3 more, here I'll put it in, like 3 more organizations in there that we haven't even worked on, like docs and DAWs and all sorts of crazy stuff. So yeah, I think playing in that gray area and like using Web3 tools, but not being hemmed into one definition is really exciting.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate that response.
I have a question. Thank you for coming today, Samantha, first of all.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My question is, so like in this space and wanting to maintain transparency, I'm curious if you've ever come across members or, you know, a group of members that didn't agree with your process, you know, and what you were doing and wanted to change it. And if you have, like what you've done about it.
So do you mean members in the existing DAO, or do you mean like people I was onboarding?
Members, well, either, I guess. So members in the existing DAO. Yeah, either, I guess.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that comes down to roles and really clearly defining roles and who owns what. So like when I was a talent scout, it was like I own onboarding, so I got to design it. And if people didn't like it, they could let me know, but like they elected me. So I was like, I own this. And so eventually I remember at the end of the season, I ran a survey and said, what do you guys like? What do you not like? And then that was really important for kind of gathering that feedback and gathering that information on what do I change next time? Like, what did you not want for the next season? And then the same goes at Aragon. Like, I'm always looking for feedback, trying to kind of gather like what people are thinking about my work and how it can change and grow. And then you kind of get to this point, though, where sometimes you just have to disagree and commit. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I really don't like what you're doing with the Aragon educational content, I'd say, hey, like, why? And we talk through it. And then eventually, if it got to a point where like they had one viewpoint and I had another, but like I own the educational content because that is my role at Aragon, like I am the final decision maker. You see what I mean? So I think understanding where decisions lie within roles is super, super important. Yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Cool.
And again, thanks for coming. I do a lot of stuff over at Crypto Sapiens, and I was transcribing your episode, and it probably took me like 10 times as long to get through it because I kept stopping to think about everything you were saying.
Oh, thank you. Sorry it took you so
I
long.
think no, it's okay. No, it was good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, of course.
Samantha, I really appreciate the insight you just dropped there, because I think someone as I was chatting with you, I still feel new, even though I'm in a role holder role. And there's this, being in a DAO, there is this like, you really want to defer to the guild and do right by the guild. And you forget that you were elected for a reason, and there are areas where it is your job to make a decision and to design it in a way that you were elected for. And Lynx had said in one of ours, like, really put your thumbprint on this in some of these areas. But it's hard to know when to do that, and I don't think sometimes even I do enough of that. So that was really nice insight.
Yeah, thank you. I think in a lot of ways, DAOs try to, especially DAOs founded in like 2020, 2022, like kind of this second big wave of DAOs, they try to over-rotate in decentralization, where it's like, I need to decentralize every decision that's ever made, you know, but then that is just so hard on contributors and just then turns your role into something that like doesn't even really exist anymore. So I'm a big believer in roles, you know, like I think that's important. I think bounty work is great, but I think getting a consistent salary is also great. You know, it's a bear market. Like in order to keep contributors around, like you need to really like show that you value their work and align incentives in a way that keeps people around. And I think roles are just like so important, and that really like drawing them out, defining what is in each role can help your team kind of operate a lot faster, be a lot leaner, more agile, and just make decisions a lot more quickly without having to escalate them to the guild and then to the DAO. Like, you don't want to be escalating too many decisions, because then that's just going to bog you guys down. So, yeah.
I'm going to be combing through this call and adding things to our Kanban board. This is gold.
Cool.
Thank you.
Love that.
I had a question to pivot back to, because I agree with the recommendation you made of we need to start kind of publishing and putting some thought leadership out there. Any advice for how to start bootstrapping that, or where to start, platforms that you would recommend? Like, how do we start to really dive into getting a publishing cadence?
Yeah. So I would, if I were you guys, I would start a mirror account. I would have different contributors in the guild own different article topics. So maybe have someone write about the onboarding flow, maybe have someone write about the meeting flow, have someone else write about, you just said you guys use Kanban boards, like, do you guys use Agile, all that stuff. So get people to write about different parts of the guild and really exposing how you all work and why it's interesting and what DAO native PM looks like, which is really interesting. I mean, I know a ton of people at Aragon who'd be interested in that. So I would start with that. I think being able to mint them would be really cool, which is why I would say do mirror, because then you also have some data on what people are really resonating with and what they find is most interesting. Yeah, that's what I would do that. I think a newsletter would be too much of a heavy lift. I would not do that. Yeah, and then just, I know you guys have a Twitter account, getting things out on Twitter. And then the other piece I would say you should do, you all might think this is crazy, but we do this at Aragon. I think it's really effective, but we really use LinkedIn because there's so many, like, almost Web3 people there. So many people who are like, I want to get into Web3, but I don't know how. And if you start putting it in front of them, start publishing on channels that aren't Web3 native, you're going to really start onboarding people. And I think that's super, super powerful. So I would cross-publish on LinkedIn. Reddit too can be good for DAO onboarding. Yeah, I think that's what I would do.
Can I ask a quick question? Samantha, a little bit of a meta question here.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling about literally doing DAO redesigns in Aragon and having one of the first like meta labels? Like, is there anything cooler than that? Are you like totally taking that in with everything that's happening and be like, hot damn, this is awesome?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think so. I think I'm excited for the holidays to really slow down and reflect on the year, because it's been like a wild year. So yeah, I'm excited to like have that like reflection. But yeah, definitely exciting and cool stuff. And yeah, designing the DAO at Aragon was the hardest project I've ever been part of. So if you want to read about that, I just published about it yesterday. But that was insane, actually. I mean, because Aragon is just, it's just an old project. There are VCs in the mix. There's like so much flow. There's legal wrappers everywhere. Like, that was crazy. So yeah, it was cool, but it was really hard.
Hey, Samantha, just to add on to that, or to dig into what you were just mentioning, I was actually really curious about the changes to Aragon. I wasn't aware that there was a transition. Would you be willing to share or just give like a 2-minute overview of what the new DAO, the new structure looks like?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, everything is, you can find a lot of stuff on this on our blog and in our newsletter that I dropped a link for. So I'll drop a link to the blog also. But yeah, high level overview is that Aragon was always kind of running these like little DAO experiments. So like what I was just talking about a couple minutes ago with the Aragon network DAO that got deprecated, that had an optimistic governance thing. Like there have been a lot of experiments to try to figure out what the best framework for Aragon to ship products in is, because as you guys might know, as PMs, shipping products in a DAO is hard, very hard. So we've been playing around with that for a while, and eventually we ended up going with a delegated voting DAO because, I mean, Aragon already has a token that was back in the ICO days, like minted like 5 years ago, has like VCs floating around, like I was saying. So they're kind of expecting like a delegated voting DAO. So that's what we ended up going with. The design is very, very lightweight. Here, I will send a link right now that will be easier to look at. Essentially, the Aragon network token is at the center. The Aragon network token is governed by things like quorum and pass rate and execution time lock, things like that. And then everything on the outside is the human layer. So let me just grab this link really quick. We have like guardians and different safeguards to protect the treasury, which are kind of interesting to look at. I actually posted this. Fun. See. So that's like the technical deployment, and that actually has more information around like, you know, guardians and proposal flows and things like that. And a blog where you can see how we outlined our whole like governance stack, which is kind of like an interesting mental model. Okay, there you go. Cool. Yeah, so those are two things to read on that. And yeah, that's kind of the high level TLDR. Did you have any specific questions though?
No, that's perfect. I'll definitely read those 2 articles. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
PD, I've got my eyes on you for writing something for the PM Guild with all these questions.
Yeah, it sounds like a potentially fun project. Be interested in checking.
Cool. Well, Samantha, I want to be respectful of your time. I don't know if there's any last questions at the buzzer. Mikhail, anything from you? Mikhail's our talent workstream lead. I didn't know if you had any questions for Samantha. All right. Well, I can't thank you enough. As you can see, we thoroughly enjoyed this. This was one of the more lively and engaging discussions that we've had in the Guild. So I'm loving it. Heard lots of voices, lots of insights, a lot for us to digest and think about. Please expect an invite back for sure. And thanks for all you're doing out just in the public with your meta label, the kind of example you're setting and the education that you're giving all of us through the work and writing you're doing. I know that I'm learning a ton, and you've been a pillar in my journey.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was really, really fun. And I love what you guys are doing at PM Guild. I follow you on Twitter and stuff, and Links always updates me on stuff. So
yeah, he was crazy disappointed because he's always here. And he was
of course.
One call he had to miss that you weren't here, and he was bummed.
Well, I will have to come back soon then. It was fun though. It was
Definitely.
cool. Excited to see this content strategy coming out. Let me know how that goes. That'll be awesome. So yeah. Well, thank you. This was great.
Yeah, have a great weekend. Happy holidays. And we will talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you.
Bye.